Welcome back to At Your Service. This is a weekly podcast where we interview seasoned service-based business owners. This week is a bit of an exception. We have Zareh with us. He is a previous business owner, and now he is a business broker. I thought he would be a phenomenal person to have on because he comes up, he speaks with a lot of brand new business owners, other seasoned business owners, and he looks at different businesses every single day. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, so, I think you have a very fascinating background. Could you give the audience a bit about your personal along with your professional sort of background and journey?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm originally Armenian, born in Lebanon. I grew up there for 12 years, and then we did a trip to New York. It was just a casual vacation trip, but at the same time, I was getting pretty good at playing the violin. And when we passed by New York, I auditioned to Juilliard Pre-College, Manhattan School Pre-College. And when I got into both of them, we chose Juilliard School. And my mom and dad, at that time, it was the worst periods during the Lebanese Civil War. And we were thinking about how to leave the country, and this sparked an opportunity for us to do that. So suddenly my life changed upside down. I mean, music was something that I did for fun. It was mostly sports that I put in most of my time between swimming and playing tennis. And then stayed there for 10 years. So I did 6 years of pre-college, 4 years of college. So 10 years in the same institution is a long time. Thought about doing a master's for a little bit, but by the time I graduated, I was oversaturated by that place. So I moved to Paris for 7 years. There were two violinists that I really looked up to, 𝐒𝐲𝐵 and 𝐦𝐮𝐬𝐢𝐳. These were my idols when I was growing up. So to listen to these violinists on recordings and suddenly to get a chance to be coached by them was an opportunity that I didn't want to miss. And at the same time, I always wanted to live in Europe. When I was in New York, I always had the idea of what would have been if I would have lived in Europe. So did that for 7 years. So as concert violinist, did some subbing in orchestras, did a lot of chamber music, tried teaching. I thought I was decent at it, but I just didn't have the patience to teach younger kids, even though it could be quite interesting, but it's a state of mind. After that, I moved back to New York because I wanted to get more of a corporate classical job, which is basically your top orchestras. And then I had the opportunities to audition to the New York Philharmonic. By the time I was prepared to take on these auditions, something in me felt like taking a break. I was 32 at that time, and envisioning myself playing in the same orchestra for 30 to 35 years just didn't make sense at that moment. I took a little short break. I did an intensive in finance and management at Cornell. They have a certification. I did really bad the first finance exam, and I got the best grade at the back end of it. And these were with Cornell students. So I asked my finance teacher, I'm thinking about doing an MBA. Would that make sense? So like, you have the work ethic to do it, and you're capable of improving very fast, but are you willing to let go of all the time you've put in as a concert violinist and switch to finance? But I think so. So I started doing some MBA applications. I got into University of Toronto. They have a really good MBA program. And I thought, since I did my undergraduate in New York, why not do my MBA in Toronto? It's a very good school, maybe a little bit less pressure than really top MBA programs in the US, especially that I was going to start from zero. And then 2 years after that, even when I was doing the MBA, I had in the back of my mind, this is not the end of my music career. By the time I finished, I was sure that playing the violin would be just for fun. It wouldn't be a full-time career anymore. So at that point, I had a job offer that lingered a little bit too long. And that job offer was 6 months in Dubai and 6 months in Toronto. Ended up turning into a full-time job in Toronto, which I didn't want to do. And at that time also, we had a family business that my brothers had taken over from my dad. He passed away when I was just starting college. And we weren't happy with the partner that he had, so we wanted to start a new one. And I joined them because at the back of my head also, when I switched careers, I've been living not alone fully. I mean, I saw my brothers during holidays and things like that, but I wanted to do something with them because really smart people, at the end of the day, they're my older brothers. And it was an opportunity to be the group CFO for over a decade. I learned a lot. We grew the business exponentially from zero to close to $20 million in roughly 7 years. And it's not that anybody can do that. It's because our previous business was doing double that already, and we had a lot of connection. My brothers had immense expertise in this field.
Right.
But it still shows you what it means to start a business from zero, and the experience was immense for me. And then the situation in Lebanon started deteriorating, and I got married, 2 young kids. I just didn't envision them growing up in that region. So around 2022, I started thinking about how to move back to North America. And in October 2022, I joined NYBB as an M&A advisor. I thought it was the best in terms of leveraging everything that I learned as a business owner. Trust me, being a violinist is a lot of entrepreneurship. They organize a lot of concerts. You need to go get funding. I did a lot of fundraisers as well for different occasions. So that entrepreneurship mindset has been with me unconsciously since I was a young kid, basically. I was 12, 13, already doing some fun little concerts with friends. But at that time, I didn't look at it as entrepreneurship. Today, after doing an MBA and being a business owner, you realize that's what you're doing. And to be a really good M&A advisor, I think you need to have some kind of experience in running a business, either at a high managerial level or as an executive. Ideally, to be a business owner yourself, because what we're providing is comfort for business owners, and we want to be, you're not going to be their friend, but you want to be somebody that they can lean on and they can share a lot of concerns. And if they feel that you just know that information out of a book or you know it indirectly, they're not going to trust you as much. So the whole path that my life took, I felt that I could leverage the most by being an M&A advisor. And this is how I ended up being an M&A advisor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you first got, or when you went back to school to get your degree in finance, did you automatically know that you wanted to go into the M&A space, or did you have a few options that you kind of were trying to choose, or what did that look like?
Let's be frank. When I first started my MBA, I didn't know much about what I was going to do. I needed a break, and I needed to gain more knowledge to view the world differently. As time passed, yes, being an M&A advisor was one of them. In general, being a business consultant was the thing that I was looking forward for the most. So it ended up me being a business owner before doing that. But initially, the job offer I got initially was as a financial consultant. Because that environment I enjoy, and I enjoy having in-depth conversation with smart people that are looking for solutions that either they're not finding themselves or they found but they can't follow through that process. And if you look at it from an athlete point of view or a musician's point of view, you always need somebody to talk to. You always need somebody to push you. You always need that person next to you that you're sharing information with. This brainstorming process is very important.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't a trigger from the get-go, but M&A advisory and the M&A world was something that definitely I enjoyed during my MBA program, and it was something that I had in the back of my mind. I would say the second year, but not the first year.
Understood. Absolutely. And when you first made that transition from music to the M&A space, when you first started in your new career now that you're in, what was a challenge that you overcame when you first started, and how did you kind of overcome that?
For me, I would answer it in a more general way initially, and then I will give you a more specific answer to that.
Sure.
Whenever you're starting something new, innately, you should have a lot of confidence in yourself to be able to figure things out. Sorry. And if you have that confidence, then you will know that as things are progressing, you will find the answers to the questions that you need to solve. That was the initial stage. And I thought to myself that, okay, you've been a partner in a business for over 10 years, you know the business inside and out. So there's no way that I cannot help somebody in terms of understanding their business better and increasing their valuation. As time progresses and as you're getting questions and you're solving problems, then it becomes a different mindset. You're a little bit, you have more spacing in your head in terms of foreseeing things than when you initially start. So initially, I would say you're solving problems as they come along. And as you grow into this business, you start interacting and asking questions to your sellers in a very different way. So you start thinking much more long term, how things can progress, depending on how much time they have to sell their business. It's that connection that you have with them becomes different.
Absolutely.
But initially, you're just solving problems, and as you grow with your experience, you're thinking about increasing their options on the long run.
Understood. Absolutely. Very, very well said. Yeah. I think that having optionality is great, and being able to walk them through that, being able to walk your clients through the unknown is just a very good skill set to possess.
Taking a step back in general, especially if time is on their side. If time is not on their side and they don't have an option, you don't have these conversations. But more often than not, they have a little bit more time than they think. And discussing that subject initially, I think, is quite important to open up your avenues. And then once you pick and choose where you're going to go, it's pretty straightforward.
100%. Absolutely. Well said. And, obviously, I'm sure you work with a variety of people who are interested in various types of businesses. And it might seem like a bit of a loaded question, but have you seen certain types of businesses that you tend to work more with, whether it be a home service, or call it like a blue collar business, like a plumbing or an HVAC company, or like a professional services, like a law firm or a CPA firm, or is it still pretty general?
It is pretty general, but it happened that when I first joined NYBB, they gave me a few businesses to help out the managing partners on. And it turned out to be HVAC companies and similar companies that basically cater to the maintenance division of commercial real estate. So electrical, plumbing, firefighting, these kind of services. And my experience in industrial construction helps quite a bit. But within the revenue range that we target, I would say between $10 and $50 million in revenue, the structure is pretty straightforward, and the guidance that they need is not as much technical as to see the big picture and what are the elements that they need to improve to attract a bigger pool of buyers. And this is the thing that matters most. And this is going back to the previous question, where time can either be constant want from buyers of some portion of the business being a recurring revenue model, which is usually maintenance. If you have time to build a small portion of that, you will gain quite a bit. I would say at least one time more on your EBITDA.
Wow.
And if you can give yourself 24 months instead of 12 months to sell your business and to show that you already implemented a growth strategy or a diversification strategy, it is well worth your time.
Yeah, that's very, very well said. And, obviously it pays to work with a professional like yourself who is very well-rounded and who has a big knowledge base around what they're doing to give that guidance and not just be very commission hungry, which I think a lot of salespeople are, or
But
people that are.
But you need to want to change. It's like saying, I'm going to the gym and I will only work out when I am with my personal trainer. No, you need to work out on your own. And when you sit with your personal trainer, they will fine tune what you're doing for you to perform even better the following week. It's not something that you can go and ask ChatGPT. You can go ask any kind of AI platform. You can even Google it. You can read it left and right on LinkedIn post, what you can do. That information is easily accessible.
Right.
What is not accessible is having somebody that you can trust that's going to give you manageable tasks to accomplish on a week-to-week basis, because you cannot stop running your business to do certain improvements. If you improve certain things and other things are not happening, that is not a good situation to be in. Let's say you're a project-based HVAC company, you want to build up the maintenance division. If your project section is tanking for your maintenance division to improve, that doesn't help either. So it's having a clear idea of how much time you can allocate to these improvements and wanting to reach these improvements. So the commitment side for me is as important. It's a two-way interview when you want to onboard a new client. Definitely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you said that very, very well. And there's a handful of people who are in your space, but at least from my perspective, I still think that it's pretty niche as to what you do for work. But from your perspective, what makes you stand out from your competition?
I think number one, being a business owner makes a huge difference.
Definitely.
Another one, as time is passing, having a music background also is very important. In what sense? When you're playing music, at the end of the day, you're honing your skill set to be able to channel as much emotion, as much of storytelling through sound. It's the same when you're talking to people. It's the same when you're connecting with people. So empathy is something that you learn a lot in music, because interpreting the composer is basically understanding and feeling their music, and you wanting to play it with your own flavor, but not necessarily, you cannot play yourself. And that is something that one of my teachers, 𝐦𝐮𝐬𝐢𝐳, told me once. It's like, stop looking at your belly button when you're playing. At the end of the day, you are playing a piece that was written for a specific reason with a specific style, and you can take some liberties, but you cannot play your emotions through the notes. So that goes back to, you need to really understand the person in front of you. And I don't think there's a better platform than arts for you to be able to do that. Sports as well, but I don't think it's as refined in terms of building up empathy as artists, especially collaborative arts. So when you're playing chamber music, you're four people communicating together, and you reach such a level of communication where it almost becomes telepathy when you're doing it at the highest level. So that is very helpful in terms of client communication and the discipline that you have. And it's a fun factor too. So once in a while you pick up the violin, you play something to them, they laugh. And I played in Carnegie Hall with some friends. I invited some clients that came, they were happy. it changes the atmosphere, and
Definitely.
it gives other elements to talk about where you can kind of come up with new ideas and you can implement them in your business as well. Coming up with ideas are not necessarily things to solve a specific problem. Coming up with ideas sometimes is having a conversation that revolves around many components, and then through that path, you realize, oh, actually, there's a nugget in that that I can implement today, and how I'll go about either doing my business, how I communicate with my staff, how I communicate with my clients. So having that mindset where you can learn from anything, it's just being open-minded enough and being curious enough on how to connect the dots. I think if there's one thing that would stand out for me more than other people, I'm sure other people have it, but I don't think too many people have it, is the constant curiosity to connecting the dots. And most people don't spend enough time doing that, which requires some time to just look in different directions to see where are these dots, to be able to connect the dots. At the end of the day, connecting dots is not finding two and putting them together. It's seeing many points on a board and finding ways on how to maximize them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can totally see how your music background would give you a competitive advantage. I don't meet a lot of people who have a music background in general. Then when they go in to the business world, I could see it being an incredible, awesome combination. Little bit of kind of a curveball question, but I feel compelled to ask, what was the largest crowd that you played in front of?
So I think around 1,000.
Wow.
It doesn't make that big of a difference, I think, after maybe 3, 4. Depends actually on the configuration of the hall. Some halls feel huge, but they're not. And some feels very big, and that they actually are. So I've never played in a hall that sits more than 1,000, but I've done that. For me, it doesn't make much of a difference because once I'm locked in, I'm in a different place. So whether I'm playing in front of 2 people or I'm playing in front of 10,000 people, it's the same. My main focus is to generate this energy within me and to be able to share it as fluidly as I can.
Definitely.
It's always nice to be applauded and to get a standing ovation. I'm not gonna lie, but if I feel that I gave it my most and I really shared a lot of emotions on stage, sometimes you have a hard crowd. So you get these. But, all right, not a problem. But in general, it's if you have more people, you feel a little bit more stress, and being really good at performing is it's like being a great surfer. It's a big wave that you see that's coming. I'm sure you're gonna have some butterflies as it approaches, but once you start surfing and once you start managing that energy, there's no better feeling.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I don't play music, but I've done stand-up comedy once in front of a crowd, and it's very scary. But when you get some applause at the end, it's very gratifying.
It's managing this adrenaline rush. And if you ask any of the great artists that perform in front of big publics, and I think Michael Jackson once said, I'm addicted to the stage. And I think what he meant is I'm addicted to this energy that I feel and how I can manage and be the best version of myself under that energy. And technically, it lifts you up. It's not, if you want to look at energy as a top-down, bottom-up concept, if you can't manage it, it feels like it's crushing you. But once you manage it right, it's uplifting.
Wow.
And you need it to reach different levels. So this is why I think athletes as well, they love competing because it brings out the best in them. But these are the people that are really good at it. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's super powerful. Yeah,
it's fun.
very.
If you get to manage it, and I was terrible at it when I was a kid. Terrible. When I was, I don't know, 9, 10 years old, it used to freak me out to play on stage. Even until my late teens, I got second prizes 2 times because on the final round of the competition, I was not at my best.
Wow.
I don't think this is really translated into M&A. I mean, you have meetings, you have due diligence discussions, you have negotiations, but it's not the same. It is stressful, but it's not the same. So having experienced that, it makes this portion a bit easier as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I could see that being very, very helpful in what you do for work. So appreciate some context behind that. And, you know, obviously you deal with various types of clients. Do you, I guess, like what's a typical client in the sense, are they like a W-2 employee that now they want to be a business owner, or is it an existing business owner like a person who owns a plumbing company and they want to increase their reach or increase their revenue, so they want to buy another plumbing company to kind of expand? What do you see typically?
It's a wide range, and it's all relative to the business. So the size will dictate what kind of buyer it is. The smaller it is, the closer you get to an individual buying it. The bigger a business becomes, then you have PE firms and strategic buyers that are involved. And then it depends on the business model. So usually PE firms are much more leaning towards recurring revenue.
Right.
But at the end of the day, now they're realizing that 20% of the business is roughly a recurring revenue. The other 80% have a very small portion and they have a project base. So they're looking at how to acquire businesses that are more project based and how to build the recurring revenue component themselves. Not all PE firms do it, but some PE firms are going down that path because you don't have enough businesses within that perfect business model.
Right. 100%.
Strategic ones might have a little bit more of a flexibility. Let's say you have a buyer that already has a lot of recurring revenue, but they want to expand, and they wouldn't mind taking some risks on a more project-based company. And since they have all that experience, they can use that as a base to generate recurring revenue. So, to answer your question more directly, it really depends on the size of the business and the business model, I would say, to simplify.
Okay. Yeah. Appreciate that context. And when you're working with new clients, do you typically see them trying to buy a business by themselves, or are they buying it with a business partner?
Again, it depends on the size of the business, and it depends on how much equity they have and how much access they have to capital in terms of other buyers with them or alone.
Got it. Very, very interesting. So 3 more questions and then we'll wrap it up, outside of what you do for work. So the first one, what is something that nobody or very few people know about you?
I mean, it depends. I lived in Lebanon, I lived in Europe, I lived in North America. So if you combine all of them, basically everybody knows what I do. But what here, since I've come back, maybe not too many people know is I have my biggest passion in life is art. And when I was in Lebanon, I created a private NGO. So it wasn't declared as an NGO. It was to promote local artists and international artists that came through Lebanon.
Wow.
To either do paintings, arts, any kind of artistic endeavor that had nothing to do with politics or religion. So you cannot touch these two. You can do whatever you want, but I don't want that realm. So I would like to recreate that environment. When I was there, I did it all on my own, and
Wow.
it was a bit challenging in terms of having a full-time job as a business owner and doing this on the side. I would love to collaborate with different people this time around. Somebody in the real estate to have the local, somebody in marketing that can push the ideas.
Yeah.
I would be doing most of the coordinating and finding the artists. So a place where people can come and experience art in a different way. I'm not saying people are not doing it, but the way you go about experiencing an event today, I feel is pretty static. And what I mean by static is you just go, you sit, you listen, and then you go back home.
Right.
What happens before, what happens after, and how you experience that environment is not very conducive to having a great time and using that moment to connect with others.
Right.
I have some ideas in mind already on where to do a few events. I need a little bit more time and a little bit more of basically time, nothing else. Time away from what I'm doing to put in. Sorry, the lights keep on.
No worries.
So that is. I wouldn't go as far as saying that's my retirement plan because I would like that to be a full-time activity within the near
Right.
future. But creating fun events, to put it in one sentence.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful, and I think I've been to maybe one or two art galleries in my lifetime, and it wasn't that memorable. So I would love to chat more offline and hear more about that. I think that's pretty awesome.
Just to put a small caveat on that, I think the way people go to events, it's not their fault when they go to a place and they're not captured by the moment because there's no preparation to that. And some people say that who has the time to read more or to watch more or to prepare themselves to go to an art gallery or to a venue. But I think the ones that really want to experience something different, they will be willing to put in a little bit of time. And it could be a small QR code, or it could be a few links, short videos, short text to listen to, just to have a basic framework on how to collect these dots that we talked about initially.
Right.
You need a framework for information to go into, for you then to take the time and to have the curiosity to connect with that information and to personalize that information.
Definitely.
If there's no framework and you're just going there and you're just sitting, you will enjoy it, but I don't think you will maximize the opportunity. And the events that I create, I want them to be much more immersive in that sense, in every sense of the word. Immersive in terms of the environment, and immersive in a way the information that you are processing and what you do with that experience.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I kind of view it as having a conversation with a person, and then you're looking at your phone, or you might have only had like 3 hours of sleep the previous night, so you're not all there, and you won't be able to have the same sort of feeling and the same sort of, I would say this same type of a feeling after you leave the event. So.
Just to summarize it quickly, at the end of the day, you go to an event to connect.
Yeah.
In order to connect, you need to put your mindset in a place where you can connect. Otherwise, you will not connect. Unless the performance is outwardly. And it's not fair for artists to expect them to be outwardly for you to experience something fun. Then you're cutting off a lot of people that are very talented, trying very hard, but because you weren't there, you're not going to connect with them.
Well said. Absolutely. Absolutely. Second to last question. Out of all of the places that you've lived and all of the places that you've traveled to, what is one of your favorite spots that you've been to?
I'm not sure anymore today because places have different meanings to me today.
Sure.
When I was living at these places. Let's say when I was living in Paris, I just left Manhattan. And for me, every time I visit Manhattan, I thought it was nice, but not so nice. Then I started going to New York a lot for work the past 2 years. New York is the place for me, but Paris is nice, but not so nice anymore. Lebanon used to be the place where I went. It was amazing. And then I lived there, and then it's not so nice. But in general, it's places like great museums or great parks. I don't think it's the place anymore that matters for me. It's the feeling that I get when I am in a specific area. And
Right.
lately, it's being in nature
Wow.
more than anything else. It's
Wow.
connect. I was always a beach person because I grew up on the coast of Lebanon, but now I'm becoming much more of a lake and forest person.
Wow.
So wherever I am in that area, I think I feel the best. It's not a specific country or a specific city, or it's not that anymore, at least as of today. Maybe we'll talk again.
Yeah.
I will tell you something else, but today it's nature. The bigger the space in nature and the smaller I am within that space, the better it feels.
Wow. Yeah. You
Sorry for an elongated.
no, I think that's beautiful, and the way you articulated yourself clearly shows how you enjoy experiences. And I think I could see, like, when you go to a place, you don't like to be on your phone as much, perhaps, and just kind of to be unplugged. And I think that's awesome. I think that's great.
Actually, I would put a small caveat. I want to be unplugged from useless technology that distract you, and I
Yeah.
want to be completely plugged in with where I am.
Wow. That is a great quote. That is really, really great.
Like you could use that one as your tagline for this.
Definitely. I love that. I love that. And then the very, very last question: if people want to reach out, where could they find you?
Can find me on LinkedIn, or they can email me. I have different emails.
Awesome.
The new company that I just created is called Intune Advisory. So my first name, Zareh, at Intune Advisory. And I use the word in tune, just it's a wordplay on my music background. And you need to be in tune with yourself to be able to see things differently. You need to be in tune with your business to see your business differently. And if you're in tune with yourself and you're in tune with your business, I'm pretty sure your valuation of the business is going to be very high.
Well said. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Awesome, Zareh. Yeah, really, really appreciate the conversation and appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge with us.